Tuesday, October 26, 2021. On CBS News this morning, they have a piece. It's referencing an NFL player, Colin Kaepernick. Apparently he identifies in the black movement because they keep referencing those words. I don't take authority on any of this. I'm just saying what I've seen. There's a director here I've never heard of, never seen. And I've only heard this name, Colin Kaepernick, just like I've heard the name Brady, but that's an easy name because there's a Brady Bunch, so that was a carry forward, easy to recognize household name. And then, like I said the other day, Gretzky and Gretzky, Gorbachev, and what's the last one? And then there's I just had it too. Anyway, it eludes me at the moment. Belichick, that's the other one. It's, right, okay. So anyway, so these words I've heard in passing, but on the news in another room, but not in I've seen it before.
Powerhouse filmmaker Ava DuVernay teamed up with activist and former NFL star Colin Kaepernick to tell his coming-of-age story. DuVernay and Kaepernick are co-creators of Netflix's Colin in Black and White. The scripted series follows young Colin as he navigates life as a black adopted teen into a white family. The series shows how his decision to take a knee to protest police brutality and racial injustice was born in his early experiences fighting for his dreams. Take a listen.
Mom said your baseball coach called today.
About what?
They want you to cut your hair.
So this is confusing for me because I heard he plays football. There's references to football, but now it's a baseball thing, and then it's a hair thing. I don't want to tout the actual whatever. So I'm just going to fast forward real quick. More importantly,
good morning, and thank you for
what she
us.
says is really disturbing.
I got a chance to watch this. Really well done, and I think you were able to...
Because it is so premeditated how they have planned their action plan and attack and franchise and their purposeful oppression of people like myself. And it is so dangerous on so many different scales, and it is so blatantly obvious.
Able to humanize someone who's been demonized by many. How did you use, or why did you decide to use his hair sort of as a starting point, as we saw in that clip?
She says for a proxy.
And the depths of race and identity.
Well, we used his life as a springboard, his early life as a springboard to talk about larger conversations about race, class, identity, respectability.
Okay, where I grew up, there was none of this. There was none of using the English words for alternate nefarious purpose or for expansion in order to further one's own nefarious purpose or so on and so forth. It was, if you say it's this, then it's this. That's it. We're not using the word hurts and making another sound and spelling for it because that just confuses international relations trying to help on a grander scale of a much more important project.
And so he was very generous and just allowed us to kind of excavate those early years. Hair is not really hair, right? It's a proxy to talk about so many other things as it relates.
No, see, I don't get that. I see this. They're saying that it's a problem with his hair. Now it becomes a racial stigma. It becomes an argument in the forefront, thinking like what white people think they have the best hair ever and that we don't, and now there's something wrong with me. No, that's not what anybody said. It's what some absurdly opulent artist decided to put out in some feature of conversation that nobody needed to have. We didn't need more anger in the public light. We needed to fix the problem with the electric in the Sky Dome and the ground force and the fact that time and space is expanding and contracting and causing harm to the human body. That's what we needed. Not like opulent, like we're so great in large quantity, and then now it becomes like a gigantic multiple years length defense case of the people who are clearly benefiting and in the wrong, hurting everyone else.
As it relates to Black people in American life, social control, like I said, respectability. So it felt like a good place to.
Social control. It sounds like somebody's been doing social engineering for a long time, planning some kind of social engineering, like, grand scheme. I didn't come from that lifestyle. I still don't live in that lifestyle. I'm looking for answers for things that hurt my physicality and that have kept me in a place that is not healthy.
Place to begin, and it's one of many different aspects of being Black in America that we explore.
You said that Colin's self-love journey is what drew you to really want to work with him on this type of series.
I think, we met each other at a Time 100 event a few years ago, and he approached me about working together on something around his early life. And at first I thought, what am I going to do with your early life?
Right.
As we got into it, he was telling me the stories, I thought all these little microaggressions really add up to something. Yeah. And that's interesting to explore, the cumulative effect.
The microaggressions. Do you see how much more educated they are than the people in my daily life? It's unbelievable.
Of all the little slights that we feel. And so that was the journey.
It's incredibly interesting and really creatively told. So I think we should set up people's expectations.
Yeah.
Because when they press play, it begins with Colin talking directly to camera, almost like a documentary or like a TED Talk. And then shifts to you got Jaden Michael playing the young Colin.
Yeah.
Why did you decide to do it that way?
Well, we wanted to not just make a doc and not just make a coming of age of a celebrity's early life. We've seen both. The idea was, could we put them together and weave something that was just more dynamic and a telling of a story that might seem small. It's a kid going through kid stuff. But everything he went through were steps on a journey that made him a singular American icon, right? Like, what are the things that make up who we are? So the goal of this is not to see this and say this is Colin's story. It's like, what parts of my journey can I also see in this? And a mix of formats and textures and genres seemed like a fresh way to try it.
It is truly a hybrid, a drama, a documentary, and just like every other project that you do, you start off in the first episode boldly and informative. And you draw these parallels between the professional scouting process and slavery. And as a guy...
Now this is interesting because I've never even heard of this. There's something called Columbine or Colbine something, but this is a football reference on NFL. Now, here's where they get in a problem. Nate, the gentleman that's on here, claimed the other day that 75% of NFL is black, or African American black. I'm like, right, okay, so it means only 25% is white. I've only seen or heard of one guy, which is Tom Brady, because they label him and make him like a American sweetheart feature for one anchor for one kid. I was like, so I got 25%, and then there's one guy as like the namesake. So now he went through the same process though, didn't it? Because when they explain here, it sounds like they were the only ones who went through it.
As a guy who played in there.
And then Linda tells me that his gazelle, Giselle, was some kind of naked model that walked the runway in some sexually exploited feature that they do to the women in America as well. So I'm just saying, it's like, I refuse to give in to that one either.
The NFL. I remember going to pro days and the combine, sitting there with my shirt off and shorts, and them, seeing how big my hands were and how happy I was once I got on the scale. And all of these guys with pen and paper on their pads, trying to figure out if they're going to draft me or not. But then as I'm watching this, I'm thinking to myself, how important is it for athletes to know, one, the process of becoming a professional athlete like you showed, but then two, the unique opportunity there is to create generational wealth. Because the difference is slavery was free labor. Now these young men and women who come from circumstances that might be harsh have a chance to reset financially, but they have to take care of the money.
The piece that you're talking about, which is a comparison of the combine, that process where they're measuring the black body, and kind of a slave auction, is not about economics in the way that we put it there. It's a
Now I'm curious because there is white. There's 25% white in there. Why do they always just assume it's black?
It's about social control of a black body.
Sure.
It's about saying, I will measure your value based on your muscles, how fast you run. So that's the point that's trying to make. And that was really Colin's idea to say, as the black men are being processed through this combine process, this combine experience, what that felt like to him.
Yeah.
It felt very similar to our ancestors who were also processed for
I agree
profit.
with it.
For profit. So he has some provocative ideas that we explore in it, and it all kind of comes from his experience.
And before we go, really quickly, the next 6 months, you've got 6 other projects.
I know what's going on.
Yeah, no, you're
But
busy.
I'm grateful.
Yes.
That's-
We hope you
that's
come back.
Yes.
And Jaden Michael is amazing in this.
Isn't he wonderful?
Great young actor.
He's a shining star. People will love watching him.
Incredible project.
Thank you.
Ava DuVernay, thank you so much. Colin in Black and White premieres this Friday on Netflix. We'll be right back.
So that I find incredibly interesting. I'm going to tie it back in because today, right now, being that it's October 26, 2021, there's storm watch outside. I'm still traversing my labyrinthus topiary, upper gamma, lower gamma, in this symbolic feature. But we have today, there's the dome. It's just one lack of color completely. But in the hindsight, it's so photon bright that it lacks foresight color. And there's no different, like, contrast or there's somewhere differentiation when you combine different and dissertation together. Differentiation, I think, is an English word that they use. That special process for why, like with shadowing, and like why does the light, why is it at such a high level? And the other thing is, I was watching the light through without my glasses on this morning, just in what was evolving as the sun was coming up and coming through, and I caught it on camera the other day. It was like moving static. It was moving pixels or moving ions is really what I call them, IONS, like a round orb of differential light, like. But pixels, usually pixels are squares, but ions are like spherical in nature by shape. And you could see disruption between the ions, the melting in and the steady feature in the visual cortex or the visual spectrum was not set at a set pattern. They were vibrating so horrifically that they were actually disengaging from one another. And so there was so much movement between foresight, hindsight, and actually being able to see the ions tearing apart from one another. And it's like really frightening to know these things and know that there's nowhere to report them, because people are more concerned about hair, braiding, and franchise and enterprise moving forward when 25% of us have been completely ignored, raped, beaten, and looked over completely while sat upon by the 75% trying to get themselves heard or provide themselves some kind of, I have no idea, doesn't matter. You have no air supply, you don't have steady ion flow, you don't have steady pixels, you don't have a working sky dome to ground control. None of what you put on television or that you wake up and fight for every day even fucking matter. So why bother? star 1978, star 8378, Nicole Cattaruzza. It's October 26, 2021. It's Bayside Station, Bayside, New York, 11361.